Concord, North Carolina, a city with just over 110,000 people. It's a city situated in Cabarrus County, located in the south central area. It's often cited for its affordability, safety, and family-friendly atmosphere. Concord, North Carolina was also home to Danica Ford, a 22-year-old woman whose life would be cut short. And when the story concludes, the person responsible is held accountable. But although the crime is solved, the mystery remains. October 25th, 1996. The world would make way for Danica Ford. She would be born to her parents Darren and Tammy Ford in Cabarrus County, located in North Carolina. In her early years, she's described as energetic and lively, someone with a radiant smile, who also possessed a gentle personality. Being born and raised in Cabarrus County means this is also where she would receive her education. She would ultimately land at Concord High School. In school, she was driven. She was also attentive, someone who was thinking about her future on the daily. But while in high school, a fork would be thrown in the road. Statistics show that 13 out of every 1,000 females will get pregnant in high school. Out of those who do, 40% of those will actually graduate and walk across the stage. For Danica Ford, she would be a part of that 40%. When she was 16 years old, she would find out that she was giving birth to a baby girl. And though she was young herself, things would be okay. She had a great family support system, and she was someone who was in the church, so she was well grounded. Danica knew that taking care of her daughter was a responsibility, so she would immediately get a job. She would start off as a hostess and work her way up to a waitress. A typical day for her was school, then work, then she was headed home to do homework and study for whatever test she may have had. And while her classmates were asleep at peace, she had a daughter to tend to. And although it was an uphill battle, she succeeded. In 2015, she would officially walk across the stage and graduate from high school. The hard work and sleepless nights seemed to pay off because this is the beginning of a future. After high school, she would relocate to Charlotte, North Carolina for a short period of time, where she was set to attend Wells University. College life for Danica was great. She was athletic, so she played on the women's basketball team. Her bright personality allowed her to make a lot of friends. She's described as being loved, someone who was vibrant, someone who was great at makeup. She was an influencer. If any fellow classmates wanted advice on what to wear or how to do their makeup, she was the person to go to. A little over 2 years into her college education, she would have to pause for one more moment because she would come to find that she was once again pregnant. For now, her education is on hold, but she did plan to pick it back up. This big change would come in January of 2018. At this point, Danica is 21 going on 22. She's just welcomed another child into this world. She brought forth this child with a man who goes by the name of Deontay McMillan, who at the time was 2 years her senior. Danica referred to the moment of having her second child as the day her family was completed. She was head over heels for this guy, someone that she would follow to the end of the earth. In September of 2018, McMillan would accept a job with an insurance firm located in Schaumburg, Illinois. To keep the family unit together, Danica decides to relocate to Illinois with him. In the beginning, they had a plan. For now, the children would stay with family while they got on their feet in Illinois. Danica knew in the beginning it would be rough, but it's nothing she couldn't handle. After all, she managed to graduate high school with a child, so this isn't a curveball she couldn't handle. It turns out that Danica was great at doing hair, so the plan was for her to do hair while her boyfriend sold insurance, and life would be great, right? At least, that was the plan. But things didn't go as planned. Little did the family of Danica know that when she left for Illinois, she wouldn't be returning. Danica would have to put life on pause one more time, but this time it was indefinitely. So, September 2018, they're now in Illinois and they're planning for life to be great, but guess what? Deontay McMillan wouldn't stay at that job for long. Having a 9-to-5 is for show money. If you work, you eat. That's how this system goes, and with Deontay unemployed, life was about to get hard. Although Danica did do hair, she was in a new city with new faces, and doing hair wasn't enough money to sustain their lifestyle, at least not at that point. Now don't get me wrong, hairstylists make good money, but she's in a new city with new faces and she had to get her clientele up. So for now, she's basically building a brand. And with Deontay now unemployed, what's next? What do? Do you go back home and ask your parents to stay there? Let everyone know that you failed in Illinois? Or do you dig your feet in the dirt and stand your ground? Danica had a decision to make, so with that being said, Danica decided to start dancing. At this point in time, it's enough money to keep a roof over their head. While Danica's dancing, Deontay's doing absolutely nothing. This puts a strain on the relationship. They begin arguing back and forth. She began questioning her entire future with this guy. We have Danica Ford, someone who's a fighter, someone who's hardworking and driven. And then you have Deontay McMillan, who started a job and quit after working there for only a few weeks. But on top of all of that, they had just given birth at the beginning of the year. I'm sure for Danica, this had to be the hardest time of her life. But just like she got through everything else, she was planning to conquer this, to prove once again that she's in control of her own destiny. November 12th, 2018. Approximately 9 a.m., the Wills County Sheriff's Office would respond to a call about a deceased victim. A hunter was out that morning hunting on his own private property when he would come across something odd. The first thing he noticed was the ground was disturbed, but upon a closer look, he realized that what he was staring at was undeniably a body. So, the officers arrive at this heavily wooded area near Woodlawn Memorial Park in West Jefferson, in Joliet Township. At first glance, officers would realize they were staring at a shallow grave. They would notice that the victim was wrapped in a bed sheet and a blanket. They could also tell that the victim had been set on fire. But whatever job they did was poor because there was enough intact for an identification. The authorities would end up using a tattoo on the leg of the victim for identification purposes. The victim would be positively identified as 22-year-old Danica Ford. Now faced with an investigation, they begin to go to work. They begin questioning family and friends, trying to get a scope of what may have happened. When the family of Danica was questioned, they would let them know the tale of the two lovers who traveled to Chicago for her boyfriend's job. By the time the authorities got around to interviewing family and friends, this is days later because she spent an amount of time unidentified. She was found with no ID, no personal belongings. So while they were searching for who she was, the culprit had a head start. On November 20th of 2018, the lead detective on the case would travel from Illinois to Fayetteville, North Carolina, to the home of Deontay's mother. At this point, it's not rocket science that they would end up there. After all, they have a deceased victim with a boyfriend whom at this point couldn't be tracked down. During this interview, Deontay's mother was truthful. She said that her son had returned home on November 16th of 2018. She said that when her son showed up without his girlfriend, she asked, "Where's Danica?" But he told her that he left her in Chicago. He stayed for a short period of time, but then he left. Then the officers asked, "Well, do you know where he's at now?" His mother told him, "Yes, he's staying at one of our relatives' home. I'll give you the address." So the officers go to this location and they question him, but he tells them that he left her in Chicago and he doesn't know where she's at. They then tell him she's deceased, and he replies he didn't do it. Another thing odd about Deontay is when he was captured, he was in possession of Danica's vehicle. He had even tried to remove the license plate to try and conceal it, but the officers knew what it looked like, so they seized it for evidence. Although Deontay was maintaining his innocence, little did he know the authorities had a pretty strong circumstantial case. So while he thought he was outsmarting the detectives, he wasn't. He would be locked up and charged with murder. Over the investigation, the authorities received hundreds of tips and worked hours upon hours investigating this case. The authorities were able to track their movement days before she was found. On November 9th of 2018, Danica and McMillan were staying at a hotel located in Lansing, Illinois. They were able to identify her because in the surveillance tape, she was wearing bright green hair. They stayed at this hotel a couple of nights before going to a motel on November 10th of 2018. This would be the last place Danica stayed before she was found the next day on November 12th of 2018. When the authorities interviewed the front desk clerk, she said something odd happened that day. They explained that after Deontay checked out of the room, which was registered in his name, the sheets and the blanket were missing from the bed. Turns out those blankets had a distinctive logo on them. The same logo that was found on the blanket that was wrapped around Danica. One more piece of evidence that put the nail in the coffin is Deontay was seen on surveillance at a Walmart purchasing a shovel. Inside of the vehicle that was now seized, in the back seat, they found traces of bright green hair. With this circumstantial evidence at bay, they decided to charge him.
Illinois, they started tracking McMillan's cell phone and social media records, but here's what it ultimately came down to. They found McMillan's car and McMillan, of course, at a family member's home here in Fayetteville. McMillan arrested Thanksgiving Day, but appeared in court earlier this afternoon on a fugitive arrest warrant. Detectives say he took off to his hometown here in Fayetteville weeks after dumping his girlfriend Danica Ford's body. Detectives say all of this happened back on November 12th when a hunter found Ford's body. In court, Deontay McMillan appeared to listen intently to a judge while he signed his extradition paperwork. Before he was escorted out, he mouthed the words, "I love you," to his mother, who sobbed in the gallery. Deontay McMillan did agree to be sent back to Illinois to face charges of covering up the death. Again, according to a press release, the Will County Sheriff's Office believes he did murder his girlfriend, but they aren't just sure where that crime took place, and that's why those charges have not been brought forth at this hour. It's a story that we're going to keep our eyes on both on air and online. For now, we are live from the Cumberland County Detention Center.
But he wouldn't have his court date soon. In fact, he wouldn't see his day in court until the year of 2024. The reason why it dragged out so long is because he was having trouble with his attorneys. At one point, they were trying to get the entire case dismissed. And then the year of 2020 came, which managed to back up a lot of court cases. But by 2024, he would walk in court. But guess what? He would decide that he would represent himself. He was claiming that he was totally innocent and that the evidence against him was fabricated. After all, the authorities had no DNA, no physical evidence, no weapon. So he felt like he could beat it. But in the end, he would be found guilty. The authorities aren't sure exactly what happened on that day, but they did lay out their theory. They theorized that on November 11th of 2018, Danica and Deontay began arguing, most likely about money. They were going through a hard time at that period of time, and this time it was one argument too many. They alleged that during this argument, Deontay lost his temper and placed his hands around her neck. He then looked directly into her eyes while he watched the life leave her body. Once she was motionless, he grabbed the covers and the blankets from the room, and he wrapped her inside of them. He then drove her roughly 40 minutes away, where he buried her in a shallow grave and then set her on fire. Due to lack of evidence, authorities can't say exactly where or when this happened. They just know it happened on the night of November 11th. In the end, Deontay would be found guilty and sentenced to 48 years behind bars. What truly happened to Danica Ford and why is a complete mystery outside of speculation. Will Deontay McMillan ever come forward and tell exactly what happened? Well, I don't think he's planning on it anytime soon, because currently he's filed an appeal and awaiting a decision. Danica Ford had a not rough life, but a challenging one. She was able to overcome so much, only to be taken out by the hands of someone who was supposed to love her. My heart truly goes out to the family. Rest in peace, Danica Ford. Thank you for being a light for others. I truly hope the final pages of your story are written and your family receives the answers they deserve.